Next day, I left you yesterday when the camera cut off because the battery had died. And I had just started to talk and to think, then talk, I guess, in a very animated way, it seemed to be, about the spa. Sorry, I'm moving the camera slightly. I should do before the setup starts again. But no. There we go. It's live. Yeah, so we were using our spa in Mingnanelia for me to try and illustrate the ideas of dwelling in a business, and that business dwelling in a location, but also within a social environment, within a community. Some of these issues are simply not dealt with in the generally accepted strategy, like what we taught in the business school. Okay. So, just in case you haven't seen part 1 or part 2, I'm now trying to articulate in a much more pragmatic way the implications of the work of Cheer and Holt in their discussion of strategy as wayfinding, which then leads into their book Strategy Without Design, which is a very, to me, very, very impressive treatise. Yeah, treatise, that's a good word for it, yeah. So anyway, so back to the spa. Trying to avoid the positional language of moving forwards, moving backwards, blah, 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 blah. Let's switch it slightly. When Risa and I are thinking and talking about how we enrich the business, and I'll come back to that in a moment, or how we enrich the business, it's very, very interesting that the things that we have to say and the things that we surface are different. And those differences represent the way each of us think and do things. So, for example, I am the one who immerses themselves in the data that we have about our clients, as much as they give us, and when they visit, the treatments that they have, the therapists that they prefer to use. And as much as I'm very naive and I'm not a data scientist, I am trying to understand, to build a mental picture, to build a mental map, what is going on. Are there any patterns that seem to connect? So for the obvious ones, I look for patterns within a family, where we know that people have come together. We record them as belonging to a particular group, and that group gets labelled A, B, C, D, E. So we try and look at the recurrence of that. We look at where the individual and the family group lives. Because of the COVID regulations here, people are required to tell you which barangay they belong to. Barangay is definitely a Philippine concept. It's almost like a village in the UK, probably bigger than a parish. And a barangay is around 10 to 12,000 people in a group. Within the barangay, we have a purok. And a purok is a much, much smaller unit, maybe, 1,000 to 1,500 people. I suppose that's more like a parish in the traditional parish structure in the UK, parish government. Anyway, where people are kind enough to tell us their piroque or even their address, which we ask for, but they're not. Actually, they are supposed to give it to us, but it's not as. We don't go for it as aggressively, or firmly rather, as we do for the barangay. So we've been trying to look at how people are related or related to us within their data set, within their barangay, within their locality. There's a thing in the Philippines about taking pictures, and Risa loves to take pictures of clients, and clients love to show off their family and the fact that they've been to see us. I hope this is making sense. So even though I'm not a data scientist and I'm not always sure what I'm doing, what I have found is I have a real strong feeling, if not a clear picture or a clear verbal description, to some degree a picture, of our client base. Right? Now that's an abstraction. That's an abstraction. That's about where groups that I think I can see are located, and something about their behaviour, about how often they come back and what they like to do. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things that I bring. Okay. The other element, which I realised overnight as I was thinking about what I've got to talk to you about today, is there's something about scanning. So it's something about the way that you're looking and the way that you're thinking and the way that you're observing and what you are going for, what it is you're trying to see. And one of the things which really, really matters in the spa is how people feel. You know, we do lots of things to try and get a nice, relaxing ambience. We have spa music. We find endless hours of spa music on the internet, and of course we have that and we have that running. But actually we only use 2 or 3 tracks, which are almost like signature tracks, albeit those tracks are an hour long. Anyway. And when people come in, we're looking to get some kind of connection with them. Or even, and this is a funny thing, but this is very Batesonian, recognizing the people that want no connection. You know, we have one client, our best client, he visits us, ye gods, once a week, once every 10 days, if not more, which is spending a fair amount of money in Philippine terms. He wants to be able to talk to the girls, he tips very generously, but from Risa and I, from bird management, he doesn't want anything. And his understanding and seeing that and working with that, and how quickly you can see that kind of things in other people, so that they have a sense of being comfortable. Okay. The premise, the assumption, the model, the strategy that we're using is that the more comfortable, the more accepted, and the more accepting things are felt to be, the more people will use us rather than somewhere else. And I'll come back to that in a moment. The things that Risa brings, Risa, bless her, English is her second language, of course, is much less articulate in English in expressing things. But she has a real, is the word touch, she has a real way of connecting and socializing and being with people that I simply don't have. And that immersion that Risa seems to have with the staff and their dynamics, and understanding when they need to play, understanding when they need to be told, which isn't very often, thank goodness. seeking members of staff who connect into our family. And there's two things about that. But one of them is that we do try to identify, and we work very hard to keep people who fit closely together into the family, using the positive side of the family dynamics. Not a Trump family at all. Anyway, and the girls sometimes, and say the girls, and our male therapist, I'll come back to him in a moment, will come to the house sometimes with Rita. I make myself absent to drink and to play karaoke. Now, why am I telling you all these things? Well, I'm telling you all these things because what I'm trying to get across to you is this notion of there is no such thing as the business of the spa. There is this totality, this immersion, this immersive thing. And so there's each of us within the business, the so-called, there's each of us in our relations with our clients and our customers, and their relation back with us. And all of the time, this is the only time that's the thing that's going forward. Forward that way for you. Forward towards the left. Forward towards the right, sorry. Forward towards the right. Whichever it is time. Okay? So you've got this moving through time. And if we're paying attention to lots and lots of stuff in a very holistic way, then maybe the whole thing will be moving through time and enriching. Enriching in the way people are relating to each other, enriching the experiences people are having within the spa, encouraging them to return and to learn more about the spa and enjoy the spa more, which of course leads to, in the end, financial enrichment. But we don't have a strategy to increase sales. We don't have a strategy to market the spa. What we have are processes that we use to set up and maintain contact with our clients as much as we can. So as I mentioned in the earlier part, we do send texts to our clients if we haven't seen them for a long time, asking them how they are and whether they're ready for another treat. We're not frightened of making an announcement that we need to make by text. I say we're not frightened because, strictly speaking, our use of people's telephone numbers should be registered and controlled more carefully than it is. We do it on a when it is necessary basis, including you haven't been for 3 weeks, it's time you had another massage. That's unnecessary. And also, if you were to search for the Hidden Gem Spa Magnolia on Facebook, you would see, we can't see it as easily, but I'll come back to that, really very rich pages of conversations within the community that builds up around the Facebook page. And Facebook's very important in the Philippines for a business. If I were to contrast that with our experience, which is not deep, but is there as part of our research and thinking in setting up this, with the franchised big name spas in the Philippines, it's just so very different. It's just so very different. Because we've acquired customers from some of these businesses, and they become very regular customers, frequently visiting customers. When you look at those businesses, for me as an analyst, it's clear somebody is absolutely ruthless about the franchise and the franchise standards. Now, why do I say that? I say that because when you look concrete things, about those businesses are very clear, obviously very precisely managed, and actually carefully looked after. So anything to do with the brand, the equipment, the facilities, the architectural layout, all of this follows a clear ideal type. So you recognize the brand. Somebody has swallowed architecture, and somebody has been very good at writing a manual, a specification for what these places will be. Where you cannot specify something, where you cannot obviously control it, and by this I mean very often it seems to me that the person who owns, the franchisee who runs a particular unit is very often absent. So when you go in, the service of the staff is indifferent. We have seen staff asleep on the couches or comfortable chairs in the reception area of one of these bars. Our clients tell us that they don't feel as connected, as regarded, as welcome, as looked after is maybe, is that the right word? I should really use the word that they used when they were talking to Risa about it, but because they were speaking in Messiah and the Risa has sort of translated it. But for what I want to say here, the thing I'm trying to get across is they don't feel as well connected. They go to these franchises, they go to our competitors to have a massage. They obviously connect to a particular massage therapist. We know that because when we first opened, several customers arrived with us because they came after, they came with, not came after, the therapists that we employed and we started with. I'm pausing, and partly because I'm thinking, but sorry, coming out of view, and also because I need some coffee. I'm wanting to check, and those of you there in the audience, but you were with me that you've kind of caught up. I'd really ask you, am I overdoing this element? But the strategy and the strategy process is very, very rich, very, very multi-dimensional. And although I'm speaking about a small business, exactly the same thing is true in a larger business. That we have a sense of who we are, what we're doing, why these things matter, and I suppose what we used to call WRM, what really matters. And if the business is going to be, first of all, financially viable, secondly, not soak up all our cash, thirdly, in the longer term, be financially more worthwhile and more valuable than it was when we started, with security for resource future. Okay, so these are what the whole thing is about. But these things I mentioned around the financials and stuff like that, they're not what you manage, they're not what you go for while you're developing your business and strategizing. The strategizing element is a much, much richer, much more immersed, much more connected and connecting with where you are and what's going around. Your choices, your decisions your what do I do next, whether you think about it or just do it, should be guided by your self-image or your image of the business, so what it is, within its environment and where it dwells. So that's what I started in the 1 minute 20, 1 minute 15, no, yeah, 1.25 minutes, 1 minute 15 seconds bit, but the camera cut off yesterday. Next part. I'll stop. It makes sense to stop. For me to have a little think and pause, catch up in my head, my thinking. Let that beautiful little bird finish going tweet, tweet, tweet. It's collecting nectar from some of the flowers around me. You didn't come to watch this for me to talk about that, did you? This is not a nature program. Well, maybe it is. Maybe it is. There are dangers in overusing a nature metaphor. But this is about what Bateson would be considering and working with if he was doing what I had been doing, teaching strategy. There you are, I've arrived at where I wanted to be. Bateson was very, very keen for us to understand that we come to terms with the world around us through models. He wanted to use models not in the way that we use it normally in speech or in management jargon and management speech. He wanted us to understand that the very way that we think and we see and we operate in the world is with an approximation of what is in the real. It's a representation of what is in the real. He clearly, or maybe I only see it clearly, but clearly then had a preoccupation with what is in the literature known as epistemology. You'll see different versions of interpretations of the word, what the word epistemology means within the literatures of philosophy. I use, and I think he uses, epistemology in the sense of how do you know what you know and how reliable is it? And do you understand the way in which you came to know? More of that in the next video. How did you come to know what you think you know? Okay, John, that's a difficult one to swallow, but I'll go with that. But then, you know, you're telling me what you know.
Can I turn on the water?
Yeah. Yes, yesterday, because our water is pumped electrically, I turned the pump off. But I don't think it's going to disturb us in this corner. So Risa was just asking me, can she run the water? And she considerate and nice and lovely. Anyway. Epistemology. How do you come to know what you know? Now there's two processes here. One is what you build out of your own direct experience. And that is to say how your appreciative system, as they call it in soft systems methodology, how you are set up in yourself to go for, to look for things and to bring them back and to assemble them into your model of how things are. Okay. But then there's the other bit, what you get told. Oh, well, no, that's easy. I decide who I trust. And if they tell me something, then I think they know. They wouldn't knowingly and deliberately deceive me. So what they tell me they know, I know that. See? Never mind. Sure. But Bateson was concerned about something more than that. And he was concerned about the errors, the mistakes in building models due to the very words that we use. He knows that what we do and what we think comes off the words that we've used, not how things really are. We've got to 26 minutes that I've been talking. I need to recover my thoughts. The brain box, the memory, is going. So I'm going to stop the video and then restart it the next one when I'm ready. And probably have a few slurps of coffee on the way. I threatened to do it 3 or 4 minutes ago. I am going to do it now. All right. See you later.